Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Weekly Coder. I'm Chris, and today we are continuing on with our Pac-Man Clone tutorial. And I'm happy to announce that today will be a fun project because we are going to add the ability to track score, okay? So every time Pac-Man consumes one of those pellets, we want to know about it. We want to not make the pellet just disappear, but we want to know, hey, Pac-Man did something, so we should give him a point, right? We should say, hey, Pac-Man, good job. You get a point for eating this. So, after all, that's a lot of work going around this entire board collecting all these damn pellets, right? He should get points. So, while we're not going to do any UI stuff to actually show that we're collecting points and that scoring thing is working, we are going to just do all the back-end programming first, all right? And a couple episodes later, you'll get to do the UI stuff. But right now, all we care about is making it so that Pac-Man gets points for eating those pellets. Because why not, right? I mean, why do it if we don't get points for it? There's really no purpose, right? Other than fun and trying to stay away from the ghosts that we still haven't coded yet. But we're going to get to them. Promise. Okay? So this is going to be a really quick, very simple tutorial. We are going to modify two files, and they are going to be the game board script and the Pac-Man script. The game board script is going to make it so that we know how many total pellets there are, and the Pac-Man script is going to actually tell us when we consume a pellet, which we've already created that method, so we just add something really simple into that, and I'll show you guys what we're going to do. So first, let's launch the game board script. And we've got that one right here. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to create two variables. All right. And we're going to keep track of how many total pellets there are and what our current score is. And they're both going to be public. All right. So we're going to make this public, and we're going to call it, it's going to be an integer, and we're going to call this total pellets. Right. And we're going to set that equal to 0 to start with. And then we're going to create another integer, and we're going to call this one score. And we're going to also set that to 0 because when we start a new game, Pac-Man starts at 0. Okay? So, right in here in this if statement, okay, what we're doing is from previous tutorials, and I'm just going to quickly explain this again. We're getting all the objects in the scene, okay? We're storing them in this objects array of objects. Then we're looping over all the objects in the objects array. We're getting the position of the current object that we're iterating over, which is O, which is defined here. We're getting the position. We're storing that in a vector too. Okay? And then we're checking the name of the object that we found. If it's Pac-Man, if it's nodes, if it's non-node, if it's maze, or if it's pellets. We're gonna need pellets. Will we? Oh, no. Okay, that's wrong. Pellets is the, I don't know what I was thinking. Pellets is, well, you can't see it, but it's in the hierarchy, and it's an empty that we've stored all of our pellets in. So we don't want the actual empty to be added to the array, but we do want all of the children to be added to the array. That's why we're not excluding those, but we are excluding the empty. So then here all we're doing is we're adding this object to the board array at the position X and Y that that actual object sits at. All right? Simple enough. So in here, where we're saying, hey, if it's not Pac-Man, if it's not nodes, non-nodes, maze, or pellets, we're going to add you to the board array. But since you're also none of those things, we also can check to see if you're actually a pellet or a super pellet. And if you are, then we want to keep a running count of our total pellets. And we're doing this because in order for us to know whether or not Pac-Man has won the game, we need to know how many total pellets there are. And then we need to know how many total pellets Pac-Man has consumed. And if Pac-Man's consumption of pellets equals the amount of total pellets, then we know the game has been won. So here's what we do. First, we're going to do a sanity check here. We're going to check, oh wow, okay. O.getComponent, and we're going to get the tile component, and we're going to make sure that that doesn't equal null, all right? Because we don't want to work with null objects, because, I mean, it's possible that we might come across one, and if we do, then it doesn't have the tile component on it, so we don't care about it. We only care if it has a tile component on it, okay? Because if we go back, all right, let's just look back at Unity here. Every single one of these pellets, if we click on one, oops, if we click on one, you'll notice that it has the tile component. All of these pellets have the tile component. Okay, if something doesn't have the tile component like this, which it does, but it's not, it's a node. Whoa, but it's not a pellet. All right, so that's what I'm going to get to next. So it's got the tile component, all right? So that's the first thing we check for. Is it a valid object that we can actually work with? So let's go back to our game board script. So we check to make sure that the tile component exists, and by doing that, we just say, hey, is it null? If it's not, then we're going to check something else. We're going to check O.getComponent. Since we know the tile component's on it, we can get the tile component, and we can check if that tile component is pellet property is set to true, or O.getComponent tile is super pellet. It's not happy with me right now. Okay. Why is it not happy? Get component. I didn't. Programming so particular. Is super pellet. Okay. So if the tile is pellet and is super pellet or is super pellet is true, then we know that we've got a pellet. We actually have a pellet. Okay. So if we know we have a pellet, then all we have to do here is we just have to increment total pellets by 1. And we do that by doing plus plus. Total pellets plus plus makes total pellets incremented by 1. So if total pellets starts at 0 and we find a pellet, we say total pellets plus plus, now total pellets equals 1. The next time we find a pellet, total pellets plus plus, pellets, total pellets will equal 2. Simple enough, right? So let's save that. Let's go into the Pac-Man class. And what we're going to do here is we're going to find a method that we created earlier, and this one's called consume pellet, right? So you guys see that here, consume pellet. So in here, where we are checking, we're doing all our checks, you know, we're saying, hey, if O doesn't equal, no, first of all, O, get tile at position. So we're getting the tile at the position of the current transform, which is Pac-Man. And we're saying, hey, if O doesn't equal null, meaning that the tile that Pac-Man's occupying at the position he's at isn't null, right? We're saying, okay, well, now we want tile. We want to create a temporary tile game object, and we're going to set that equal to the tile component on the tile game object. So then we say, well, if tile doesn't equal null, making sure that we're actually getting the tile component, making sure that the tile component exists on our tile game object, make sure that doesn't equal null. And if it doesn't, then we're going to check to see if all right, so if it hasn't been consumed here, right? So if it hasn't been consumed, if it hasn't been consumed and it is a pellet, or it is a super pellet, then we want to do what's in here. And the first thing we do is we, of course, disable the sprite renderer, and we want to set the did consume property of it to true. So that way this tile can never be consumed again. So once that's been consumed, we want to also, of course, update our score, right? So here's what we're going to do. Game object dot find, and we're going to find game, okay, because that's the name of our game object that has our game board class on it. we're going to then say get component, and we're going to get the game board component of the game object class, the game object class, and we are going to use the score property that we created earlier, and we're just going to say plus equals 1. And that's going to increment whatever the score value is by 1. If we put 10 here, it would increment it by 10 every single time. So that's how you do incrementations of integers, is you do plus equals. Plus equals basically says we want to add whatever it equals and whatever is to the right of that equal sign to what's already there. If we do plus plus, it'll increment it by 1. Plus equals increments it by whatever the value is to the right of the operator, okay? So that makes things simple. And just for good measure, we're going to go ahead and create one more variable for us, all right? And we're going to call this one, we're going to make it an integer, and we're going to call it, pellets consumed. Okay, and we're going to set that to 0 initially. And then the other thing we're going to do in here, where we are incrementing our score, we're going to set pellets consumed. We're just going to increment that by 1 because it consumed another pellet. All right. So now, instead of creating a UI to show our game score and to show that all this code actually works, because I don't want you guys to feel like you did all of this for nothing, I'm going to just simply output in the update method. We're going to do debug.log score, and we're going to call a game object dot find game dot get component game board dot score. All right, so this is just going to continuously output our score. So here we go. We're going to go ahead and go back to Unity, press play. And now if we look at our console, we'll see that every time Pac-Man eats another pellet, our score will go up by 1. See that? How awesome is that? Our score variable is working. So in order to create a UI, all we'd have to do is create our canvas, add a text UI component to our canvas, and then from our game script, we would just update our UI. We would just put a reference to the text UI object, and then we would just update that text UI object with our actual score variable. So the next video is not going to be about that, I don't think. Let's see, the next video is going to be about next video is going to be about fun stuff. The next video is going to be about the ghosts. All right, so I know this is exciting because this part of the game that we're getting ready to get into is probably the most exciting part of the game for me. Is actually programming the ghosts and getting their AI on point to chase Pac-Man, to run away from Pac-Man, all that good stuff. So that's what we're going to get started with next week. We are going to create the actual ghost script that is going to be the base of all of our ghosts. And then the video after that, we're going to get into actually doing the AI for each individual ghost. That will be fun. You guys will enjoy that, I hope, because I did. And I'd like to think that if you guys are watching the tutorials I make, that hopefully you're enjoying the same kind of thing I am when it comes to, game programming anyways. And I mean, I've got a lot of other hobbies that I enjoy, but this is probably one of my favorite, and definitely AI. AI is something that I really, really love. So anyways, if you enjoy the video, give it a thumbs up. Remember, comments go down below. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Help spread the word. I appreciate all you guys. I've gotten a lot of subscribers over the past month, which is awesome. I love making these tutorials, and I love it when you guys come watch them. And, like I said, if you got questions, comments down below, and I'll try to get to them as quick as I can. Other than that, hope you have a great week. I'll see you next week.